week. And an apology this morning from officials at the Japanese power company to the 3 workers who suffered severe radiation burns. Plus, there are new reports this morning of a major setback in the effort to contain the crisis. Our Neil Karlinsky has the very latest from Tokyo. Neil?
Diana, things are not exactly going well out here, but there is one bit of good news this morning, and that is that one of the reactors, reactor number 1, is now stabilizing. The problem is with those other reactors, especially reactor number 3. A lot of problems there. In fact, an unnamed source now telling the New York Times for the first time that a large crack is visible running down that reactor. And as the source points out, the problem with cracks is they don't get smaller.
Today, with one reactor suffering a possible core breach and 3 workers suffering severe radiation burns after water seeped over the tops of their boots, an official from the power company overseeing the catastrophe apologized and said the injuries could have been easily prevented. If we had given them the heads up thoroughly, we would have been able to avoid their exposure to the radiation. We regret our lack of communication. The workers suffered radiation burns on their legs and feet. A doctor who examined the injured men says remarkably, "I do not think that it will be related to cancer." Only burns, he says, even though they were exposed to water with radiation 10,000 times normal. Today we've learned that at least 14 other workers are showing signs of heavy exposure, 100 millisieverts of radiation, twice what they should normally be exposed to at the plant in an entire year. And there are new reports of high radiation again being found offshore from the plant. One expert says the levels may be from a leak directly into the ocean. More traces are being found in the food supply as well, leading to increased testing, especially in spinach and milk. Walking the land his family has farmed for 500 years, Takakazu Suzuki told us he's worried. Yes, he told us, we are very much concerned about it, and we hope things will settle down as soon as possible.
The government wants more and better information from TEPCO, the power company. In fact, a special advisor to the Prime Minister of Japan was appointed today to try to make that happen. It seems even the government here is having a hard time getting to the truth of exactly what's going on with those reactors. Dan?
Incredible amount of confusion still this morning. Neil Karlinsky reporting from Japan. We appreciate it. For more on what this means and how serious it is for the people in Japan, let's bring in the physicist Michio Kaku, who's in Berkeley, California this morning. Michio, thanks for joining us so early. We appreciate it.
No problem.
So when we hear about the apology, this rather extraordinary apology from power officials, what is your take on that?
I think that if I had the ear of the Prime Minister, instead of accepting the apology, I would simply remove the utility entirely from leadership of this crisis and instead bring in a top team of the world's best nuclear physicists and engineers with the authority to call out the Japanese military. Only the military, led by an international team of top scientists using TEPCO as a consultant, can tame this monster.
You've been very critical of the way the Japanese officials have handled this all along. Let me ask you about some news we're getting this morning. A rush to bring in fresh water to douse those reactors to cool them down instead of the seawater that they've been using for 2 weeks now. Why is this switch over to fresh water so significant?
The utility is late at every step. First of all, they were late in putting in salt water because salt water is corrosive. It would damage their reactors. But it was never meant to be a long-term solution. It's a Band-Aid. You have to remove the salt water because it contains corrosive salt, which gums up the rods, prevents cooling, raises temperatures, and could cause a hydrogen gas explosion. So once again, they're behind the 8 ball. Once again, they're now talking about putting in fresh water, compliments of the United States military.
In fact, tankers are rushing that water this morning as we speak. When you hear these reports about a large crack apparently running down the side of one of the core vessels, how worried does that make you?
The most dangerous nightmare that haunts the dreams of every nuclear physicist is a huge crack in the vessel which actually contains the uranium rods itself. It means that there's core damage. It means that there could be a steam explosion or a hydrogen gas explosion which blows the vessel apart. That's what happened at Chernobyl. And that's why we had an uncontrolled release of 25% of the core into the air over Kiev. And so this is the nightmare that haunts every physicist, a crack in the vessel. And now we see it.
It is, as you say, the nightmare. Michio Kaku, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.